Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. So I'm here with the February update for my palette of the month. This is a challenge I started last month, and basically what I'm doing is just using a different palette for every month. Um, I'll do this challenge for as long as I have palettes. I don't have enough palettes to go for the whole year, but it's probably going to be a challenge for the first part of 2018. So the first palette that I used in January was the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. And I really enjoyed this palette. This is the newest one that I have. I got this one for my birthday. And it's just a really popular palette, and I've really been enjoying playing around with it. So this is what it looks like. I did use all the shades. That's one of my kind of things with this challenge, is to use all of the different shades, not just use a few of them. My favorite shades from this palette, or my top favorite shade, is Bon Fresco, this sort of matte, sort of purplish type shade here. I just think it's really pretty. It's good all on its own or paired with other shades, but that was definitely my favorite. My most used shade in this palette is Tempera, which is just the sort of brow bone shade for me. I use that one every day, so I really love that. And yeah, everything else is really pretty as well, so I'll kind of go shade by shade and just sort of my thoughts on it. So the 4 shades over here were probably my most used everyday type of shades. So of course Tempera as a brow bone highlight, and then I liked Golden Ochre, Burnt Orange, and Raw Sienna as sort of all over the lid shades. There's all these 3 kind of warm tone shades here are all matte shades, and a lot of my other palettes have a lot of shimmer, especially Urban Decay palettes. So it's kind of nice playing around with some mattes, and I found that they were really easy to work with for everyday sort of wear. So I really enjoyed those shades. The next 2 are both shimmery shades. So there's Vermeer, which is a more champagne-y shimmer shade, and then Primavera, which is a more golden shimmer. I liked both of these. They're really nice. I tend to prefer Vermeer over Primavera. I personally tend to gravitate towards more champagne-y shades. So I really enjoyed that. That was also one that I wore quite a bit. Also, Primavera I wore a few times. Next, there's the more, so we're getting into the more berries and red tone shades. So as I said, Bon Fresco, of all the shades in this palette, is definitely my most favorite. So I enjoyed using that a lot. I really enjoyed at times pairing it with Antique Bronze, which is this shade. It's a shimmery, kind of bronzy, berry type shade. It's a very interesting shade, but I really love that one as well. And then there's the red shade, Red Ochre. That was sort of fun to play around with. The sort of colorful shades in this palette, the reds and the berries and the oranges, definitely outside of my comfort zone, but they were fun to kind of play around with the shades, like the very warm tone shades. So I did enjoy that. Then there's Venetian Red and Love Letter. I tend to use both of these. One's Love Letter is a matte shade, where Venetian Red is more shimmery, so I would tend to kind of use those together, but I did have fun kind of playing around with those more berry shades. Then there's Warm Taupe. I found Warm Taupe was also one of my favorite shades in this palette. This was a good one I could use all over the lid for everyday wear, and it also was a really good crease color. So I'd say Warm Taupe, Antique Bronze, Bon Fresco, and Tempera. I think those were my top 4 favorite shades from this palette. And then the 2 shades at the end, out of everything I probably use these 2 shades the least. I tend to use dark shades not kind of sparingly anyway, no matter the palette. So I think Cypress Umber, this matte brown, I used maybe a few times to deepen up an eyeliner, and then I think I used Realgar, the orange shade, one time for a look. But if I was gonna go for the colorful shades, I tended to go more for the berries and the reds versus the orange. I think the orange just was a little bit out of my comfort zone, a little more than the others. But overall, I really enjoy this palette. I like how there's really easy to wear shades kind of for everyday sort of wear, but then there's also some of those warm like colorful shades. So this is a really fun palette. I really enjoyed it and I can't wait to use this one again. But that was my palette of the month for January. And then for February, so this is the newest palette that I have, and then for February I'm going to go with something that I've had for a while. It's an Urban Decay palette. It's their 15th anniversary palette, and it's really hard to show because it is all like mirrored, so it's really hard to kind of show it. But this is what the outside looks like, and it's a really pretty palette. The thing with it is it's not that practical for like travel, so I never got as much use out of this as I wish I could have, because the lid on this, there's not like a clasp or anything, like the lid just kind of comes off. But this is what the shades look like inside. Again, it's all mirrored, so it is a little bit hard to show, but it's some really pretty colors. So you have a row here that are kind of lighter to mid-tone shimmer shades. The row over here is like darker shades, darker shimmer shades, and then you have a row of colors, or a column of colors in the middle. So I like the variety of shades in this palette. I like that there's some more, you know, less colorful shades that are a little easier to work with mixed with the colors. I always look at the like super colorful palettes and they kind of scare me because it's like, I don't know if I'd want to use that like every single day, but I do like this palette adds some pops of color. So yeah, I'm really looking forward. I think using the Modern Renaissance palette with a few different colorful shades kind of makes me want to experiment with color a little bit more. I tend not to. I tend to use more like the Urban Decay Naked Basics palettes that aren't very colorful at all. So I'm kind of excited to play around with a little bit of color. So this is the palette I'll be using for February. Now, this palette on its own wouldn't really work for a full look. It doesn't really have matte shades. I think there's one matte shade. It's just the black shade here, but it doesn't really have like a brow bone highlight or crease shades. So in order to use this successfully, I am going to pair it with another palette. This is the Urban Decay Naked 2 Basics palette, and it's just a really basic palette. It has, you know, mainly matte shades. I think Skimp is kind of a matte satin, but you know, it has brow bone highlight, it has crease colors, so I think it pairs really well with something a little bit more colorful and like shimmery like this palette. And for this challenge, whenever I have a palette that really needs a supplemental palette, I'm going to throw in the Urban Decay Naked 2 Basics palette to work with it. But yeah, I'm really excited. Today I have a look that is Chase, which is this color here, and with deeper. So I don't know, I really like, it's like these kind of bronzy shimmery type shades. I think they're really pretty, so use those two in a look. And then I have this shade, which is Deepen, on the lower lash line. So I think with this palette it's kind of fun to use like one shade from each column and kind of mix it up and do different looks with it. I think that is kind of a fun way to use this palette. So yeah, that's my palette of the month for February. I'm really excited to play with this palette, play with some of the colors in it, and yeah, I'll be back next month for my update on using these two palettes, and I'll talk about what palette I chose to use for March. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye!